of recording this magnificent piece of work. Ready to go, Graham?
Yep.
We need one of those cinema clickers. 3, 2, 1. Actually on. Good morning, everybody. It's Dan Aberhard here from Aberhard Ag Solutions. It's May 4th, 2018. We have a feeling a lot of our potential attendees are out in the field today, seeding, spreading. We were finally able to go after a hiatus, a weather-related hiatus where there was snow and wind and cold and rain, but looks like lots of people are just hitting the field, which is perfect. And some spreading getting going. We were just in the field recently in Toba and Saskatchewan. It's good to see. And we are back after about a month. We've been pretty focused on a bunch of things. We had some shows. We had some meetings. We were doing a lot of selling in April, actually, a lot of early order selling. So now we're back. We want to continue our discipline and our rhythm of keeping you guys informed. And this is all recorded, of course, so you guys can check in on any device at any given time through the wonderful technology of the internet and join.me. If you have any questions, Graham, you can text me. Actually, Graham, you can just ask me since you're the only guy on the line right now. And I don't know that we have anything to add, but we could think of some things as we go. But I do have, outside of our regular items, a couple cool things that are coming up that we're super excited about that we knew to everybody. Some marketing events that we're putting our heart and soul into, as we usually do, and that's going to be exciting. On our safety talk this morning, I thought I'd touch on a event that occurred with a guest of ours coming up, Chris Unraw. I worked with Chris Unraw and Precision Land Solutions for a couple of years. If anyone can actually imagine me in overalls and rubber boots, it's true. I did do that, and I went out and ran a big 50,000-pound plow, and I put in pipe on grade, 3 to 6 feet deep in the soil for the purposes of water management. But a really interesting event that really cemented the whole culture of safety in my mind that occurred during that event at that time with Precision Land Solutions was we had an employee that was working for another company that was subcontracting a job, and they were digging in a really big trench in order to put in a large main. And it's what do they call it? The smooth wall is the big, long sticks that are rigid that are 16, 18, 20 inches to handle the water flow. They get trenched in because you just can't put them through a plow. So, of course, they had a really steep trench going, and it wasn't caged, and it wasn't sloped properly. And there's a young guy in the hole who was putting together the pipe, and, of course, there was a cave-in, and cave-in can weigh as much as a small car, and just the way it happened, it pinned him against the pipe, and he broke his pelvis in 5 places. And so I got a call. I was on the field at another site plowing in pipe, and our whole operation was shut down. The whole company was shut down for a couple of days, and a consultant had to come in, and safety people had to come in, and we had to dig some holes and show them everything that we knew. And it wasn't really on our watch, so to speak, but it was something that the company had to shut down work for. There was a fine. There's productivity loss, and of course, worst of all, the young man there had broken his pelvis in 5 places. So we were just out in the field again doing some spreading of biosol, and I was reminded of the importance of safety. And it's easy just to jump in and do it farmer style, but I think it's super important for us to practice safety as a culture. Wouldn't you say, Graham? Are you going to back me up on this one?
I think safety is extremely important in the field. Everyone needs to be aware at all times.
Yeah, Graham was out there this week, and he had his PPE on, he had his safety glasses on, he had his gloves on, and he had his safety boots on. And he didn't throw cigarette butts into the sulfur, so that was appreciated.
It was good. I mean, it's a little funny to hear say that you put boots on and you got in the field, because we were doing the old style weighing and calibrating of a spreader, and it wasn't going so well. And I think you picked up a couple buckets, but you mostly let everybody else do all the work. So good to know you got your hands dirty at some point.
I have a special role in all of this. It's more of a visionary role. I'm more focused on the imagining of things on the accountability chart. And my main job there is to make video and put it on YouTube, which you'll see soon. But yeah, we got some amazing shots, actually. Amazing shots out in the field. I could bring that up, show that out. Yeah, we had just out by Regina there, and it was a really great day. And calibrating a new F4 365 at Gross Farms, Drummond Farms, with South Country and Jeff and Taylor Gross, and Bob was in there, and doing lots of pan testing, so it was really good. So that was fun. It was good to get in the field again. It's been a while. We just had our what we affectionately call the way too early order program. So thanks to all the dealers that stepped up to the plate and pre-bought some inventory. The next big go around we're going to be focused on will be June, and new pricing for June, and selling some more product for fall. The last time we were on the scoreboard here with our cheerleaders cheering us on, we're at 34,575 metric tons sold. This is basically our final tally as we count our fiscal year over year. We're at 41,000. So not necessarily the 50,000 we were looking for, but pretty darn good. We had inventory going into this year. So basically, as it stands by my count, on terms of purchase orders collected, not necessarily delivered, but in terms of purchase orders, I'm just going to double check my audio here. Well, it's all looking good. Yeah, we had 41,000 metric tons of purchase orders sold year over year, May 1st to April 30th. The year before was 320, I believe, or 32,000 metric tons, 320,000 acres. And the year before that was 70,000. So I think in terms of year-over-year growth, Graham, you're the math guy. If we take 41,000 less 320, 9,000 divided by 32,000, it's 28% growth. Not too shabby for business this size, so that's encouraging. And I think this fall, we're just thinking this fall is going to be big. Our pricing this month is at $290 in Saskatchewan, $310 in May, and $320 in May in Eastern Manitoba, and we anticipate some more selling, but I think the big focus will be on June. With the late seeding, everybody's going to be super focused on their mission of getting things done in the field here. This is, as always, we like to put this up. This is a price comparison of our product versus other products, and it also helps you tell the story of the rates and the analysis and how many pounds per year and how many years the application lasts. And this tool is available to you through the dealer portal. We should have some sound effects here. Transporting you to another dimension full of information about our company and being a dealer. And I want to mention this more. Aberhart Ag Solutions. So you go in here, and then if you go into the dealer portal, okay, you got your weekly webinars we've completed in the past. Got our webinars. These are absolutely educational and great show, guys. Great to play in the cab while you're seeding. Analysis reports, pricing, safety, a lot of safety stuff. Safety and documentation, maybe you can talk a little bit about that when you get going. Presentations, FCC application. If somebody wants to do FCC, we just open this up and fill this out. It's easy as that. So there's a lot of great tools on there. I just want to make everybody aware. And I've teed up my sidekick, my right-hand man, a logistics guru. I think this is a gift that should play. Ooh, look at that.
Look at that. It's a nice one. Okay.
Just
So,
give me, go ahead there. Go ahead. Yeah.
this spring, as everybody knows, it kind of started a little bit later. Up in the north, it's still drying out, but down in the south, we're pretty dry. But right now, we're really busy sending out product. It's just later delivery and kind of got a mad rush on the biosol once everyone realized that things are drying up quicker than expected. But right now, we have a ton of trucks sitting, waiting, ready to haul. So if you want to get in your orders, our turnaround time to get it out to you, or if you already have orders in and your field or your drop spots are ready to go, we can have a truck loaded and ready to go within probably 6 hours, but 100% within 24 hours. Right now, we have about 8 trucks hauling and ready to go at any time, any given time. Most of them are hauling out of Regina. As for the accuracy of weights of our loads, they still load trucks with payloaders, and they're coming in big buckets. So the accuracy of our loads is, unless you really tell me, keep it right on 40, keep it right on 32 or whatnot, they're going to be a little bit higher or a little bit lower. It is kind of nice that it's not too busy, that we don't have too many trucks in the pad. If we need it to be an exact weight, they can go and they can scale and they can dump and they can rescale. But the general rule of thumb is if you don't really tell me that you need it to be an exact weight, it's going to be within 2 to 5% likely of that weight. Right now we're kind of using our trucks. I've always said, if you decide that you want to truck your own product, you're getting a truck, or you want to set something up for the fall, let me know as soon as possible. And we have a lot of insurance and safety documentation and kind of some hoops to jump through and get you ready, just to make sure that all the regulations are in place and everyone's safe when hauling the product.
What's our rule there? We're not going to necessarily. You need to go through the proper documentation. If I want a truck, I've got to have proper documentation before you can go to the BioCycle GFL pad, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You need $5 million of liability insurance for one, to Eberhard Egg. And then you need to your drivers need to have their TDG. We have a GFL safety orientation. So basically you go through and you sign off that you've done the presentation. I can walk you through it, or if you have other drivers, I can walk you through it, and then you walk them through it. They sign off certificates, and every time you enter the pad, you need to have this GFL certificate in your truck if they ask to see it. So as we scale up and as the pad gets busier, the liabilities and safety needs and regulations need to be adhered to even more and more. So that's kind of the way it is. If you say, oh, yeah, sorry, I got a truck and I want to come haul and I want to be in there tomorrow, that probably is going to be a very hard timeline to meet. But if you decide, you know what, this fall, I think I'm going to come and pick up the product for myself, then I can walk you through the steps and we can easily get you online for the fall.
Very cool.
And I've always said, if you want to make some money hauling the product and doing whatever, I give dealers kind of first shot on loads and try to get them as many as they can, since they've already invested in the business and they're a part of the business. So
absolutely,
there is that opportunity.
Appreciate it, man. Graham is the wizard at the chessboard. It's a game of Risk of moving biosol. It's a beautiful thing. Well, Graham, we can probably wrap that up for now, hey? Or do you have anything else?
Yeah, no, I'm good there.
I think our guest is on. Okay. I'm just going to move ahead because Chris is on time constraints. I got some other good news for you, juicy news that I'll give you guys after the call with Chris. But good morning, Chris.
Morning.
How are you doing there today, brother?
Oh, she's a roller coaster.
Do you want to talk about it?
I don't know.
The joys of being an entrepreneur, eh?
Yeah, there's days where it's a joy, and there's days where all I want to do is come work for Eberhard Ag Solutions.
Well, I'm telling you, working at Eberhard Ag Solutions is just as good and possibly even slightly better than it looks on social media.
I get.
It's basically the Instagram life. Everything is perfect. Everybody's happy. It's amazing. It's innovative and fun and team spirit and a lot of fellowship. But isn't that fascinating, Chris, how it is being an entrepreneur when, I have a lot of people that have reached out and congratulated us on our success and been super excited and happy for us and just see a certain image on social media. But the reality is a business owner is often at 6 p.m. on a Friday night, you've got your head down on the desk wondering where you're going to go on Monday.
Yeah.
Chris, Unruh.
You bet.
Well, it's awesome to have Chris on the show. I worked with Chris for 2 years in Precision Land Solutions, and that was an amazing, fast-moving entrepreneurial journey, and became good friends, and I learned a lot. And Chris has a lot of stories to tell on a lot of different levels, and it's going to be exciting to talk to him about all the amazing stuff. It hasn't been that long, but you've been up to a lot of stuff, Chris, haven't you?
Yeah, we don't tend to stand still very long out here.
No, Chris, so just tell us a little bit about yourself and your businesses and how you got to today.
Okay. Well, my name is Chris Unruh. I grew up in sort of south central Manitoba near a little place called McGregor, and just always had a keen interest in agriculture. Went through the University of Manitoba diploma program, and following that, I went to work for a fairly large potato enterprise near Winkler. Spent 10 years in that business, moving up from basically the bottom up through into management, senior management. One of my roles there was managing about 1,100 acres of potato production, and I also did a lot of special projects work, which included all of the water management for the farm. So at that time, the farm had come through some really, really tough years of devastating losses due to excess moisture. So that was really, really in the forefront of what they wanted to do, was figure out how to mitigate those devastating losses. So the management at the time had been looking at what possible solutions there were for mitigating crop loss due to excess moisture. And one of the things that they had started working on pretty intently was a surface water management program, which was not just ditching, but also land leveling. Basically, with potatoes, you're creating a 12-inch dam every 38 inches. The potato hill itself acts like a dam and holds a lot of water back. So one of the first things that we did was just learn to orient our rows so that the water could actually run out. There were some fields where all we had to do was turn the rows 90 degrees, and a lot of our problems went away because the water could just run out. Seems like a pretty simple solution, but back in the early 90s, there were some of these entrenched, you farm north and south because that's the way the tree rows are, and it took a little bit of work just to rethink this and say, okay, well, maybe we should take the tree rows out, turn the rows the other way, and replant them. So some of those simple things that actually took quite a bit of effort back in the 90s. So land leveling was another thing we did quite a bit of, and then the other thing that was really, really far out there at the time was this thing called tile drainage. It really hadn't been done almost at all in Manitoba. There had been a little bit that had been done back in the late 70s. It was done in a completely different manner than it is today. And so, of course, it didn't work very well, and it gave a lot of people a bad taste in their mouth, and they said, well, this stuff doesn't work, and it's just cheaper to go get more land anyways, so why would you do this? Back in the 70s, the stuff they did in Manitoba was much more of a randomized pattern, not any sort of pattern tile. So anyways, you fast forward from the 70s to the 90s, you get through the dry years of the 80s, and you're into these really wet years, and guys are starting to look for water management solutions again. Together with PFRA at the time, they brought out a contractor from Southern Ontario to do some experimental work here. They put in a few fields together with a couple of the cooperators, one of them being the farm that I was working with. And they started watching it and started seeing results. And so the farm that I was with decided we should pursue this a little further. And I was tasked with figuring this out. How do we tile? What does this look like? I went to just about every tile clinic I could find in North America back in the late 90s. We brought a old D8 plow, literally pulled it out of the bush in Ontario and brought it out to Manitoba, and we started tiling in the fall of 1997. And we saw good results, and we just continued on from there. So I continued my career at Quaker Farms. Over the course of my time there, I tiled about 3,500 acres and had a great career, very successful, but I was always hungry for more and just had that internal drive to become an entrepreneur and row my own boat. So I decided in the fall of 2006, the opportunity came up to buy a tile plow that had been based here in Manitoba. It was actually the one that had done that experimental work back in the late 90s. And the fellow that owned it, he was a contractor from Ontario. He ran his business in Ontario, but then would come out in Manitoba for about 6 weeks every fall to do some tiling. And it was enough that he could leave the machine here, but it really wasn't enough. It was an older machine, so, didn't really bother him to leave it here, but it wasn't enough to really be its own business. But we decided fall of 2006 to buy that machine, and my entrepreneurial story is again one of those where it just should have never worked. It should have never happened. I didn't have the money. There was no way, no how. It just shouldn't be possible. But whether it be by the grace of God or who knows what, we did make it work. A lot of determination and a lot of we got some good breaks from a couple of people that helped us out. Not necessarily financially, but with a little bit of advice and assistance, and we ended up borrowing enough money to make a down payment to buy this machine, and we decided to go all in, and that was sort of my the way I did this a little differently than from some others maybe was for me it's either all in or all out. That's kind of the way I live life, and we decided to go all in. Are you still there, Dan?
Absolutely, I'm just enraptured. Continue on. It's all good, Chris.
Okay. You just want me to keep talking?
Perfect. I just think it's great. I think it's a fascinating story. No, carry on. It's great.
Yeah, so we ended up buying this machine and went all in and decided if we're going to do this, we're gonna do it, to the next level. So when we started in 2006, if you wanted to get tile installed in Manitoba, you as the farmer had to get any permits and permissions that you needed done. You needed to order the pipe and stock it and take care of all the risk and all the extras and any pipe that doesn't get used. You needed to supply a backhoe to dig the holes. You needed to supply a tractor to string out the pipe and an operator to do that. And you had to close up the field and finish it all up when it was done. So it was a really involved process for the farmer. And my vision was to make this into a one-stop shop where the only thing that the farmer has to do is write the check. because what I was seeing at the time was these farmers are just way too busy in fall to be able to do this. They don't have the time or the resources or the energy, and there was an opportunity to provide service, to notch up the service. At the time in Manitoba, there was one other gentleman who was installing tile, and he was doing a fine job, and he's still out there. He still does a fine job, but basically, if you hired him to do your tile, he came with the plow, and that was it, and you had to do everything else. So we started out by offering licensing services, design. We bought the pipe and resold it back to the farmer, so that it was a full turnkey solution that way. We added the stringing, we added trench closing. We did a lot of work on developing lift stations and how to put those together and make them work properly and efficiently, and just generally provided a lot of service to the industry. And it was accepted, just phenomenally accepted well by the marketplace. So we kind of hit a couple of good things that hit for us at once. One was, providing the service, which was really accepted well. And then I think at that point, the timing was pretty impeccable that we were really starting to see, the early adopters picking up on tile drainage and really starting to get into it. So we kind of rode the wave of the early adopters there through, that had kind of started basically in the early 2000s, right before I got in. But there was really only two guys that were installing pipe. And then I got in and I bought the one out, so there were still two of us. And within 4 years, I think we were up to 6 companies in Manitoba installing tile. Today we're at 9. We think there's 11. No, there's got to be more because I've got 5. We think there's about 13 plows in the province right now, plus some farmers that do their own. And we've grown to the point now where we've got 5 machines, and we tile between 8,000 and 10,000 acres a year. We also do surface work with 2 tractor scraper units, and we do a little bit of consulting and irrigation work. So it's grown a lot, and it's been a really, really exciting ride. It is a ride. Like I was texting Dan about 5 minutes before I joined this call. texted Dan that I had just had a really, really tough phone call. Not one that really put me in a good mood for what I'm doing right now. But that's just the thing. When you are in business and you're an entrepreneur, you just have no choice but to pull up your bootstraps, put on your big girl or big boy panties, whatever you decide to wear, and just suck it up and put a good face on and move on.
It's a tough business.
There is no alternative. It's burn the ships and move on. So that's kind of where we're at today. Throughout the course of all this, we raised a family, or we are raising a family, 4 beautiful kids. The oldest 2 are just about to leave high school, and so they're into dating and jobs and all that stuff. Younger 2 are a little more of a pain in the ass, but we're still keeping them alive. And
family. Yeah.
And then the other side, of course, I'm passionate about a couple other things. One of them is aviation, and if you get me talking about airplanes, Dan, do you know if you ever go with? I gotta make sure I say this right, but if you're ever on a date, with a pilot, when to tap over, right?
No, tell me how. Is it
because he or she will say, "Well, that's nice. Now that we've talked about me, let's talk about my airplane." So.
I've not had the pleasure yet, but hopefully I can take that off the bucket list one day, Chris.
Yeah.
Dating a pilot. Well, we'll get into the aviation because there's so much more to the story after this. There's a couple of things about water management I thought I'd key on. It's kind of interesting because I just had Frank Grandaway on, and he's very similar to you, and his passion is water management, aviation, and adventure and philanthropy and going around the world. But we talked about a lot of PLS. And I just want to catch up. Where are we at with TSN turning point, the tipping point with water management? Where are we on the bell curve with what's going on in water management today?
I still think we haven't quite made that full transition to mainstream. I think we're kind of right towards the end of the early adopter phase. It is becoming more mainstream, but for me, the numbers just don't support that we really have become mainstream. And the reason I say that is because we're tiling between everybody in Manitoba that's putting in tile, we think maybe 20,000 acres a year. And, you know, when I just look at the sheer numbers of amount of land out there, we're still hardly putting a dent in it. And
right.
And then when we go out and talk to farmers and we go talk to people who haven't even started with 1 acre of tile yet, it is, for me, it's just absolutely mind-blowing how many farmers want to tile or they've got plans to tile or wherever they are, they're not doing it, but they've got plans to do it. And
right.
I've always said that, you know, if this dam ever breaks open, me and 20 other guys will never keep up. There's just been absolute phenomenal boom that would happen. But we're not there yet. You know, having plans to tile and actually doing it are two very, very different things. And there's a couple of things that are holding it back. I would say one would be just the sheer capital outlay. It's a tremendous amount of capital, and farmers really need to wrap their heads around it. It's not necessarily that they can't find it. It's just they have to make that decision to go do it. We've had a couple of customers that even in the last year, their floodgates have opened because they've sat down with their accountants and they've done the math and they've figured this out. And their approach right now from what it was 12 months ago is phenomenally different, purely because they had the financial discussion with an advisor that said, you know what, this is revolutionizing your farm. This is making you highly profitable. You need to do more of this. So that's exciting to see. And I think once more of that happens, then that's when this thing's really going to blow wide open. But at this point, we're all still competing for business. So if any of you are listening and thinking here's an opportunity, I welcome you to it. But, you know, there's a lot of tough days too. There is a lot of competition in Manitoba now, so we really have to be on our game. I love competition because it just makes us better. And it just thrills me to always be pushed to get better, to pursue excellence, to figure out how do we serve our customers better, how do we help make them more profitable, how do we trim our costs, how do we be more professional, all that stuff. So I love competition for that reason.
Well, there's no doubt that you guys are the best. And,
the other thing, commodity prices is holding this thing back a little bit. And then farmers do tend to be somewhat reactionary. And I try to say this I don't know how many of you are farmers, so I try and say this in the gentlest way possible, but knee-jerk reaction tends to be, one of the ideas that comes to mind. It is, for me, it is amazing how we have a couple of different groups of customers. There's the ones that look at the long-term play, and they're on a program, and they're going to tile X amount of acres per year no matter what. And then there's the ones that when you get a dark cloud on the horizon and it starts raining and their field gets too wet, then they call you up and they've got plans to tile 1,000 acres tomorrow. So it is interesting working with those two groups. But I mean, I think we do a fairly good job of it, and we kind of roll with it as best as we can.
One of the things that I thought is excellent about your company, and it's a true bellwether of the kind of company that you've built as a leader, Chris, the ability to lead your company for 6 months at a time. That's extraordinary, and you've done it.
Yeah, I guess there's a couple different ways to look at it. One is, I can tell you all the, fancy dancy stuff about empowerment and how I believe, I believe in allowing people to be masters of their own destiny, to make decisions autonomously, to have purpose in their work. Hang on, I just reply to a quick message here. There's all that good management stuff, which is all true, and I do believe in it, and I try as hard as I can to follow that. But the other part of it is that I just have an awfully short attention span. So.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about this flying thing. But let's just take one thing at a time here. You're into this racing thing. Tell us a little bit about before we get into the flying thing, tell us about your excitement on the ground. You love racing, and that's been a big part of your life. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess the racing thing is actually somewhat related to the flying thing. I got into aviation back in the early 2000s. I did a fair bit of flying for a couple of years, and then I couldn't fly for a while, various reasons. One of them being Transport Canada didn't want me to fly because they thought I had a medical condition that warranted that I shouldn't be up in the air in southern Manitoba where there's nobody living in an airplane. So
probably the safest place anywhere.
Yeah, so I couldn't fly for a little while. We were also busy starting our business, raising a family, all that. So that was kind of, wasn't an option for me. So I decided to take up dirt track racing. And I started out racing what's called a lightning sprint. We raced it in a few different tracks around southern Manitoba, North Dakota, Minnesota. And I found it to be, for me, it was just an absolute tremendous diversion from work. Because I think, like a lot of entrepreneurs, we really tend to lean towards being workaholics. And I found out early on that I could be more effective at work if I would just take a break from it and get my brain completely off it and do something else. At the time, I was moving more and more into position in my own company where I was doing less hands-on work and more management and brain type work. And so I just found, to be able to go and pull wrenches on the car and think about problems other than how to get a drainage license through, or how to finance something, or how to make payroll, or deal with employees, or any of those sort of challenges that we face every day. So I just found it to be a great diversion. First of all, you're getting my head out of work and onto something else, working with my hands, doing something I love. I love wrenching on cars and just the mechanic, a bit of a gearhead. And then I also really took to the competition side, and I found a lot of parallels between competition on the track and in business. And for me, there's just some really neat, interesting things to learn. One was just not to be afraid of competition, and how you can actually, work with your competitors. You can, use your competitors and that drive to help you get better. And the other thing I learned, which I use this analogy fairly often, is that there's just no better place to be than out front. Because when you are out front, you're in clean air, and the car just performs better. You don't have the pressure of trying to pass somebody in front of you and looking for all those opportunities. And, sometimes when somebody's in front of you, you try so hard, you screw up and you fly off the track. And for me, there's just no better place than to be up front in clean air. And that's the way I really, as hard as I can, try and run our business, is to stay ahead of our competition and never be following. Always be the leader. Get out in front of them. If there's a problem, get out in front of it. There's a lot of parallels and things to learn that I've been able to translate over to my business.
That's awesome. I always love that analogy or that saying. So I want to move into this one life. I'm sure that we can talk for 10 or 20 minutes, which is about what you have left for us today, Chris. One life project. Tell us why you decided to fly across the Atlantic in your plane and make a YouTube series about it.
Well, I've been trying to do some thinking about that, and so far the best answer I've come up with is just because I needed to. I needed to do that. There's a whole bunch of things that play into your life, and big dreams and bucket lists and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I'm kind of driven by those sorts of things. And, you know, as I progressed in aviation, so I was allowed to start flying again about 6 years ago. And I've just always had a passion for aviation and for travel. My thing is I like to get in my airplane and go places. I just love to travel. So yeah, I ended up, I follow some guys that have done these round the world flights in small airplanes, and that enthralls me and gets me really excited. Ended up meeting a guy online and went to visit him in the UK. He has an airplane identical to mine that he's circumnavigated the world with. And not only that, he's done that Atlantic crossing probably 16 or 17 times. He's been all over northern Canada. If him and his wife want to go on a holiday, they just hop in a 210 and fly to Canada from Great Britain. So when I saw that and started talking to him, and, you know, it's like anything that seems insurmountable, when you start breaking it down into little bits and tackling them one by one, it just becomes so much more achievable. And so we started looking at this, and I decided, yeah, I want to do this. And really where the One Life project came in was in me really trying to think about why I wanted to do this. That's really how the One Life project came about. I wanted to do this. Like I say, I felt I needed to do it just for my own personal satisfaction and, you know, achievement of bucket list goals and all that kind of stuff. I love the journey. You know, for me, the journey is just far more important than the destination. But I really started putting a lot of thought into why do I want to do this. And, you know, there's a whole bunch of things that play into these sorts of things. But some of the things that came to mind, one was, you know, just wanting to share this with other people. A few people that I knew either on social media or outside, you know, had got wind that I was thinking about doing this, and I kept getting a lot of requests, a lot of encouragement. Chris, we want to see this. We want to see. Bring us along. Show us the pictures. Post videos. You know, you gotta share this with us. So I was getting a lot of that.
Yeah.
At the same time, I really sat down with my management team here at PLS, and I said, okay, guys, like, this is what I want to do, but I don't want it. I also don't want it to reflect negatively on the company in any way. You know, I know there's going to be people out there that are going to talk and say things, and I've never been one to be driven by that. But at the same time, I don't want to have my employees in a situation where they're defending me and, you know, this why is your boss flying all over the world kind of thing. So we talked about that quite a bit. And, you know, and in the end, what really came out was that, you know, I feel we've only got one life to live. I feel very strongly about that, and we need to go out and do what we want to do. And that really, when I look back, and I know Dan was along for the ride when this happened. I think it was 2 weeks after he started, or maybe less. We had a major tragedy in our family. My brother and nephew were killed in a car accident. My dad was in the vehicle, and that really was one of the catalysts for how we operate our companies, because I was taken out of the action immediately. I had to deal with all this family crisis stuff, and I had no choice but just to trust my people to keep running the company when I couldn't be there. And that whole thing just really impressed on me that, you know, we just don't know how much time we've got. We've got one life to live. You better make the most of it, because it could be over. So that sort of was, you know, a big driver for me. And when I started telling that story, and, you know, we talked about it internally here, and, you know, one of the guys that works for me said, you know what, Chris, you should just tell your story, because nobody can argue with your personal story. Nobody can argue. If your thing really is that you just want to do this because you've got one life to live and you want to make the most of it, that's your story, just tell it. And so that really encouraged me to, you know, okay, well, what would this look like? And so we started out by just saying, okay, well, let's put together a couple of videos, and I'll tell my story, and I'll share it with a few people. And you know, in the beginning, it really was, I kind of joked around. I just said, well, really, I just want to put this video together so I don't have to tell the story to my parents all over again. That way they can just watch the YouTube video and it's done.
Doing it for mom.
Yeah, do it for mom. And I said at the beginning, I said, you know what, I really don't care about subscribers. You know, if I get 12 people that want to watch this, then it's worthwhile doing. If I inspire, you know, one person to go and do something, then it's worth doing. And so we started it, and like I think a lot of things, it's just become way bigger than we ever imagined. And I get messages, you know, we're over 500 subscribers, which it really isn't much, but it's more than the 12 that I thought we'd get. And I get messages from people like literally every day saying how inspired they are by, you know, what we did and what we're doing, how touched they are, and how driven they are to go out and do what they want to do. Right after we got back, I was in a restaurant and some lady walked up to me and don't really know her, and she says, "You're Chris Unruh, right? You just flew across the ocean?" Yeah. And she says, "Well, you know, I was on spring break. My kids wanted me to go downhill skiing, and I said I could never do that. But then I just thought about that. If Chris Unruh can fly his airplane across the ocean, then I can go downhill skiing with my kids." And that's the kind of thing I've been getting, and it's just been awesome to hear that and to, you know, play a small role in helping some people go and achieve their goals.
Well, I watched the first episode last night, and I'm telling you, Chris, it's so well
Dan,
produced.
you only watched the first episode now?
Listen,
I'm so hurt.
I've been wrapped up in my own one life journey here. You know, it's you know how it is, eh? I kept seeing it and kept thinking about watching it, but
yeah.
it's the best. It's the best of reality television, and the reason is that the plane and the trip is just really an accessory to your story and who you are, and you're amazing on camera. You've got a great story to tell, and but here's the thing though, Chris. Okay, I've only watched one episode, but cut me some slack because I'm genuinely interested in what happens and, you know, what comes of it. And I've seen some different spicy YouTube titles like Getting Real Over Greenland or something. So for those of us who haven't watched it yet, tell us what happens. I mean, you don't have to give away the trick ending, but what actually happened? How did it go, man?
Well, I mean, it was a fantastic journey. Like any journey, it has its ups and downs, and it has its moments when you think like, oh shoot, what have I gotten myself into? And am I really capable, or I'm in way over my? It's like, oh no, I'm in way over my head. Now I'm up in friggin' Iqaluit, and how am I going to get home? So yeah, there's a few holy cow moments. But yeah, overall, again, you break it down into small pieces, and you just, okay, we're just going to do this flight today, and that's all we're going to do. And, you know, we watch the weather and make sure we've got our T's crossed and I's dotted. And that's one of the things I love about aviation, is just that it really forces you to think things through and be prepared. So yeah, I mean, the trip was largely uneventful. We just released an episode last night, so now I can give you this. It's not a spoiler anymore. Now I can tell you what happened.
Okay.
But
yeah, hit me.
basically, we left Nuuk, Greenland, which is on the west coast of Greenland, and we took off uneventfully. Just an absolutely stunning, epic takeoff over water, snow-capped mountains coming down cliffs to blue water, fjords running in, just most stunning, beautiful scenery, glaciers running, you know, flowing into the fjords and breaking off into icebergs, like just beyond description. So we climbed up to 19,000 feet, and we're chugging along, and we're probably into our flight by about half an hour, 45 minutes. And Luke and I were trading off pilot and command duties, so he was sitting in the left seat, and all of a sudden he nudges me and starts pointing at the oil pressure gauge. He says, "We're losing oil pressure." And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, this can't be, this cannot be happening. It was losing pressure slowly. I guess that's a little bit of the thing about, digital gauges. It tells you the exact number, which, for us humans maybe isn't always a good thing because, we talked about it later. If it had been some wobbly fat needle, we might not have noticed it. But because it's an actual number, now you can see that, we went from 35 to 34 to 33 to 30, and we kept going down. So we went down to about 28 PSI, which was on the low side of my gauge for oil pressure. And at the same time, oil temperature started rising. And so this was obviously a concern, but we immediately turned back towards Nook. And right, Dan, I'm just going to transition back to my truck here so I can get moving towards my next appointment.
I get it. Always on the move.
Yeah, so oil pressure is decreasing, temperature is increasing, and we turned back towards our destination. We didn't declare an emergency at that point because the engine was still running fine, and we couldn't see any other signs of a problem. And then we started thinking this through a little bit, and I said to Luke, I said, well, normally when I fly in these kind of conditions, it was really, really cold. We're at 19,000 feet. It was minus 36, 37. And I said to Luke, I said, normally when I fly in these kind of conditions, it's also cold on the ground. My Bluetooth's going to pick up in a second here.
That's cool.
And so when we're on the ground, then I tape off some of the air inlet in the front of the airplane, just like you put a winter front on a truck or something to limit some of the cooling air.
Yeah.
And so we started thinking this through and happening here. I got you back now?
Oh, we got you again. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. So started thinking probably what's happening here, the oil cooler is in the front, the cold air is cooling the oil and congealing it. I've heard of this before. That's probably what's happening. So we said to ourselves, well, let's descend into warmer air and see what happens. So we did that. We descended into warmer air. Oil pressure came back up. Temperature started coming down. But okay, we got this figured out. We're good. So we turned back to destination again, but just stayed a little lower in warmer air. And but now you're watching the gauges because now your senses have been alerted. Now you're nervous. Okay. So we're chugging along for a while like that, and okay, now I'm starting to get a little more comfortable because now things are stable. So I said, well, I'm going to try and have a bit of a nap. So I leaned my head back, and I bet you I hadn't had my head leaned back for 3 minutes, and I heard a noise. The engine changed pitch, and we felt some deceleration in the airplane. And the way this kind of airplane works, it tells you the RPM, but also the manifold pressure, which is an indication of how much air is coming into the engine. So turbocharged airplane, we normally fly at 30 inches of manifold pressure, and it just went boom, dropped to 20. And engine's still running fine, but we can't get the full amount of boost out of the turbo system. So by that point, we were closer to the destination than we were from where we left. So we elected just to keep going. The engine was still running fine. We just couldn't run it at essentially full throttle. It just wouldn't put out. But it was running smooth and everything was going well. So we came up with some theories of what we thought was going on. As we got down towards the ground, our performance improved and things were normal again. So to make a long story short, we chased some gremlins, and we fought with it for a little bit, doing some test flights and different things to try and figure out what was going on. And in the end, what happened was there was 2 loose bolts on the intercooler, which had allowed one of the gaskets to pop out, and we were just losing turbo boost pressure. But nothing serious, just affects your high altitude performance, that's all. But at the same time, when you've already had one issue and then you have another one in the same flight, I tell you, I was shitting my pants, something serious for a while there.
And
am I allowed to say that am I allowed to say that on a podcast?
We can edit that out, Chris. No worries.
Okay,
we're good.
Okay.
That wasn't scripted though, right? That was the authentic life and death moment.
That was it, yeah. And but yeah, that was, you know, any sort of an engine issue in any airplane is concerning. It's cause for concern, right? And that's why, you know, we have the training and we have the procedures and, you know, we have the safety equipment on board and all that stuff. I mean, you sure don't want to use it, but it's there. And any sort of engine event is of concern, especially when you're flying a single engine piston airplane over water. But in the end, it all worked out good. We're back safe and sound, and we're cruising on.
How would you rate that against the Wyoming emergency landing that we experienced?
I would say fairly similar.
There's no terror like being a helpless passenger who knows nothing about planes with no cell service to text the people that you love that you're about to die at 18,000 feet when your engine quits over Wyoming.
You are making that one out to be way worse than what it was.
I didn't panic. I held my steely glare like Clint Eastwood as we went down. My life was flashing before my eyes, and you were manhandling every button and lever and pulley in the thing. Jalopy.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, Chris is going to kill me. I'm dead.
Yeah.
So listen, you got to go. I respect that. You're between meetings. You took time to talk with us. I respect that. And, man, I love and respect you. It's the greatest guy to be around. I mean, crazy shit's happening all the time. Just tell us a little bit before you go, just real quick, you got 3 minutes. What do you want to come out of this project, or what's next?
I don't know. We're kind of trying to figure that out. You know, like I say, my goal when I started it was just to share it with my mom and a few other people, and you know, it kind of morphed into something a little more than that, where it seems to be that, you know, we are actually inspiring some people to go out and take those difficult steps of moving towards reaching their goals. So I think if we could continue to do that, would be pretty neat. I would love to continue to pursue my passion of flying and sharing these stories with people. That all costs money, so if I can figure out how to make this thing at least cover some of the expenses, would be kind of fun. And the other thing I think was, you know, I go back to sort of where this all comes from, and some of my motivation being this tragic accident that we had happen in our family. And one of the good things that came out of that was we worked with a bunch of our suppliers and customers and partners to raise funds to help my niece go to university. She had just lost her dad, who was the breadwinner in the family. And what are you going to do? So we raised a bunch of money to help her go to university. So that was cool, and that's done. And it sort of gave me a bit of a long-term vision or goal for what if this one life thing could turn into something that helps someone else who's experienced a major loss to achieve their goals and dreams. So that's kind of, you know, one of the ideas that we're tossing around. But at this point, I haven't quite made the jump to figure out how we move from where we are now into something like that. So if you've got ideas,
I don't know.
I'm wide open.
Yeah. Well, I got lots of ideas, just no execution. I was just curious how, like, a 3 in a classic ADD case, you know, can pay attention enough to get all these details to go fly across the ocean. I was watching the videos, man. There's lots of details go into it, but I'm super proud of you, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show. And there's so much more we could have talked about, but this is good, short and sweet. Good luck with your companies there and your project. And again, like we talked about, I'd love to, you know, see and hear you at the Grow in the Future 2018 event at Egg in Motion, if you can get that plane in the air again, if you can get your bolts on.
Yeah, we'll tighten some bolts and hope for the best.
Thanks, buddy. Well, keep it real out there, and good luck with your next meeting. Hopefully it's better than the last one.
All right.
Thanks for coming on the show. All right, we'll talk again.
Yep, bye.
Yeah, bye for now, Chris. Graham, are you still on the call here? Did I lose you? I just wanted to finish up.
Yeah, I'm still on the line. Sorry.
You're probably talking to truckers like normally.
I actually was, yeah.
Oh, man.
A couple times, but I'm back.
It's such a crazy story. It's so mind-blowing, like that whole story. But anyways, I just want to mention before we go, I know we got our show all chopped up here, but Chris could only talk to me from 7:15 to 8 o'clock Saskatchewan time here. But we are going to be at Farm Progress Show. That's coming up very soon. And, of course, June's going to be a really pivotal time for us to be touching base with all our customers before they blow their wad on other fertilizers. We want to get in front of them and all that momentum we've been building, all the investment we've been doing, all the calling and marketing we've been doing. We want to capitalize on that. We want to have a huge fall. Excuse me. So Farm Progress is going to be really big in that regard, but Ag in Motion is going to be bigger. And what's happening with Ag in Motion is opportunity for all of our dealers. Is we're basically creating an event called Growing the Future 2018. That the purpose is to bring in people to our booth. And so the vision I had last year was to rent a stage that we could have people speaking on it. And of course, that turned into a lot bigger event as the Stars Group has decided to hold an event at Ag in Motion, and it's going to be called Field of Stars, and it's going to be on July 17th on the Tuesday night, and it's going to be on our stage. We're donating the stage as a sponsor, and Brett Kissel's going to be playing, and they're going to have over 1,200 attendees, and we're on the organizing committee, so there's all kinds of sponsorship opportunities available for people in our network, and I'm going to be following up on this in the weeks to come. There's live auctions and silent auctions, and there's corporate tables available, and tickets for this thing are like $175. So it's pretty crazy, but it's just going to be a great event to be involved with. And for us, fortunately, it's going to make that investment in the stage really, 10x our ROI. So we've got a schedule of speakers here. We've got speakers in the morning and speakers in the afternoon, and then Elston's going to take the stage daily to talk about the no-brainer disruptive decision of BioSol Premium Plus to everybody that's eating and drinking beer. And we've got awesome speakers lined up on our stage. It's really come together bigger than I could ever imagined. And who's that funny-looking guy? And it's going to be super exciting. And Stars is actually going to speak on the stages as well to kind of wrap things up. And I'm sure that'll be a really powerful talk. But, there's going to be our stage, our booth, right next to Seedmasters. There's going to be beer gardens throughout the whole thing. I think there's another hospitality event going on Wednesday night. They're going to use the stage. It's going to become one of, if not the center of the show. And I'm really excited about it. So I think it's a big opportunity for our dealers. Hey, Graham, if people want to bring in signs or come work the booth with us, I mean, that's all what it's for, is to promote our mutual business. So I think one of the things we probably need to follow up on, Graham, is talking to all the dealers about signs or getting their logos and stuff into the booth somehow.
Yeah, I'd agree. Or maybe Aberhart Ag planning some kind of transportation out there, and if people want to jump on, they get a bus or figure out a way to get everyone in a group and get them out there, something like that. If that's
absolutely,
we have a lot of I don't know, what do you call it? Interest is the word I'm looking for, I guess. Then we could probably put together some kind of like common transportation, as it's not in the city and it's a little ways out there. It's kind of hard to get to. So
shuttle,
a shuttle. That's like a Craven shuttle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to narrow it down now. No, that's good. That's good. I mean, these are the kind of ideas that we want. Like, it's an open script, and let me tell you, Ag in Motion is very receptive to all kinds of ideas to promote their show. And there's all kinds of exhibitors that are bringing this show to life by, contributing content and having different levels of interaction. And man, I'm telling you, we're going to get a ton of visibility. It's going to be big. We've got to make the most of it. So, and we want to involve our dealers in this process. Our good partners in business. I mean, you guys are what make this business tick. And I think I've talked to Daryl again about bringing some equipment that will be really attractive to put in the booth again this year. But we are going to be center stage. So this is actually west and east, north and south. It's kind of buggered up. I should figure out the technology to rotate this, but this will be facing out here. There'll be demos and stuff out here, and all these tents and our stage and our booth. It's going to be incredible. There's going to be a lot of traffic out in that end of the show. Whew. So I am super pumped about that. Anything else, Graham, before we wrap up this webinar?
I think you covered it there.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for attending. It was fun talking to Chris. I wish we had more time to talk to him. He's got amazing stories, a whole bunch of other stuff going on that we didn't have time to get into. But man, that guy's an inspiration in my life, and he's doing great things. So watch that One Life. It's incredible. It's like really good. It's just really well produced and a really entertaining. It's just incredible. Yeah. Really, really crazy story. Thanks, everybody. That's it for today. I'm out. Have a good week. Good luck seeding and being in the field. And Graham will have this recording up for you guys here shortly. Thanks, Graham.
Have a good one.
Bye for now.